What's going on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you my first place deck profile. I played at a Winnabox on Saturday, and I was able to take first place playing Phantom Knight Adventure. I had a blast with the deck, of course. I was able to, of course, make some changes and some transformations to the deck that allowed it to be even more consistent than what I was playing before. Been playing it going second heavy, especially with Dark Ruler No More. Decided to make some cuts as well as make some adjustments to make it more consistent. But it performed very well, so I wanted to go ahead and show you guys some of the changes that I made, of course. So if you have any questions, any comments, go ahead and provide them in the comment section below, of course, so we can continue to make transformations to the deck that allow us to, perform very well with whatever deck we're playing. So I wanted to give you guys my take on it, and I'll go over my matchups as well, share with you guys some things that I've done and a couple combos that I actually came up with or that came up during testing as well as in the tournament. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, let's go ahead and start with the Brave engine. So, of course, we got our one Faithful Avenger, the Draco back, the Right of Artemisia. I'm sure I'm still saying that wrong. The 3 Water Enchantress, and then the 1 Griffin. None of this changes, of course, until Konami decides to hit it and obviously semi-limited or limit it. But the engine's very strong. Obviously, this being a level 3 makes it insane for our linking and going into our XYZs. And then, of course, the Omni Negate on the end turn allows us to be able to just establish a board that's just very oppressive. So the Brave Engine, of course, not much to say. As I said, there was a little bit of a combo that came up with the Draco back that's pretty cool in this deck. It's pretty unique. It works out pretty well, especially when you're trying to deal with people's boards. So I'll definitely go over that once I get through the cards here. But that's the Brave Engine, of course, self-explanatory. Then we've got 3 Forbidden Droplets, 2 Destiny Fusion, very standard, 3 E-Telly, so of course we're still playing the full extenders. We're not really focusing too much on hand traps, we're just looking to play through our opponent's hand traps and establish a board that allows us to win the game. 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforce with the Army, 1 Call by the Grave. I did decide to add this in. There was a comment on my last video regarding hand traps and not playing Call by the Grave. And again, this deck is able to play through hand traps very well. My only problem is that there are a lot of Flunderies in my area, so Call by the Grave was definitely a tech choice for Flunderies specifically, because this deck does struggle against cards like Dimension Shifter that pretty much control the board or the entire turn and your resources. Losing them to the Banish can be quite detrimental, especially against a deck like Flunderies, because they're not really able to out your board specifically, but they are able to stop you from playing the game. And if you don't have resources available to play the game after you've established a board and they're able to clear it, then you're not able to really play the game turns after, because this is why the deck is so strong, because everything that you do on the board goes to grave, and then you're able to recur all of your resources and establish another board or continue to push for game. So this was definitely necessary. I wanted to be able to have it out to Dimension Shifter, and unfortunately this is the only card that allows you to play the game during your turn that will allow you to stop a card like Dimension Shifter. So we did decide to add in the Call by the Grave. Then we'll go over the Phantom Knight lineup. So we got 1 Gloves, 3 Boots, our 3 Torrent Scale, of course the MVP of the Phantom Knight package, and 1 Cloak. I did cut the Stain Greaves as well as the other Cloak. I find myself only wanting to really see the original copies that we need to see for the normal summons, and then of course the extender for the actual Phantom Knight engine itself. The second Cloak did not come up enough for me to be able to play 2. I think that as an extra body, it's fine when you're looking to discard cards, but when you're looking to get just that regular normal summon, I feel like only having 5 copies of a normal summon is much better than having more, because this can end up having to be a normal summon if you don't see any other copies of Phantom Knights that you need in order to establish a board. So I think this was perfect in terms of the amount of cards that we're playing. And Stain Greaves never really came up. If you do have to use this and then you need an additional extender, you have Shade Burgadine. Otherwise, I feel like Stain Greaves was just a copy of a card for a normal summon that just felt really bad unless you had multiple copies of Phantom Knights in hand, which at that point you really don't. But so the traps, we went with the 1 Shade, the 2 Wings, and the 1 Fog Blade. This is pretty standard as well. I know some people don't play the Wings and they'll just play the Fog Blade and the Shade. I feel like you do need the 2 different names, because depending on how you're setting up your end board, you want to have access to being able to go a full extension. So I actually end up using almost all 4 of these traps in one turn, because I end up using Cloak to search Boots, and then Boots will end up searching Shade, and then I'll end up setting a Fog Blade, and then maybe I'll use Torn Skills if I draw this to pitch the other wings, or I send Gloves to send the other traps. So there's a lot of nuances in this deck where you're able to actually use all 4 in the first turn, just because you're looking to get full extension and set up your board so that you're ending with Dagda on board, because I am playing Scythe and Lancia. So I want to be able to have access to both, because Evenly Match is a card that's been being mainboarded in a lot of control decks. So I want to be able to have the ability to stop Evenly Match and stop my opponent from being able to access the extra deck. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I went through all 4 copies, and you do need the 2 different names in order to full combo and to overextend. And again, that is for overextending, because you don't technically need it to set up your main board, but if you want to overextend, it's necessary. So the 2 Destiny heroes, of course, are bricks. We see it all the time. I mean, we draw a Celestial more than anything. I don't know why, but obviously needed cards. Then we've got our Wielder and Tracker, our E-Tele targets, the best extenders that we need to draw in hand. Of course, they're level 3s, and you usually never normal summon them, but they're necessary for the E-Tele. And we're still playing the Terratop and Taki Tomborg. I still don't think these are bricks at all. This card's actually pretty amazing because it is a 1-card Cherubini that lets you set up your Brave Engine. So it's very, very strong. This is also not very dead because of the fact that Griffin's a wind. So you're able to actually special summon this off of Griffin in the event that you don't want to normal summon. So yeah, I mean, honestly, this package is very necessary, I think, and I think it's very good. Again, this allows you to special summon for free, especially if you control no monsters, and then you get this, and it's a 1-card rank 3. So, I mean, also you can go into Break Sword if you need to for a Zeus. So, again, without normal summoning. Very, very good. Then, as I said, we're playing Lancia and Scythe. I decided to go with the 1-1 because, again, banishing is definitely a very big thing right now in the format. And I wanted to be able to control my opponent's extra deck and control their ability to get resources and play the game. This affected a lot of matchups. I think actually this affected every matchup I played. I played against Flunderies, I played against Sword Soul, I played against Sky Striker, and I played against Mech Knights. So yeah, I mean, Lancia definitely put in a lot of work. Being able to set up the Scythe on my turn and then keeping the Dagda on board for my opponent's turn with the Lancia. I normally ended up at end phase popping my Verte and DPE, clearing the board to give me 2 spots so that I'm able to summon both. So I'll DPE, chain Dagda, set this Lancia, pop both, and set it up as I needed to. So and you end up having the room because you usually end board with a Fateful Adventure, the Draco back, a Fog Blade, and then the 2 slots open, 1 for Scythe, 1 for Lancia. So very strong. I think Lancia is definitely going to continue to be a card that's going to be very strong in the format at the moment. So let's go over the extra deck. We've got our Bardiche, of course, the best card in the deck. Then we've got our Cherubini, our starter, the one that does everything. Love the Burning Abyss cards, of course. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously standard. I did play the 1 IP Masquerena. I was playing, in my previous list, Phoenix. I decided to drop the Phoenix. He didn't come up often enough, and IP Masquerena is a better card because for some reason, Destiny Fusion gets glued to my hand a lot, so I do end up seeing it. And this is a nice card to be able to set up the board with because it's another interaction that allows you to be able to play around your opponent's cards. In the event you get Dark Ruler No More or Droplets, you're able to try to use IP Masquerena to clear some of the effect monsters off your board to resolve them. So if you, for example, you've got DPE, you activate DPE, you Scythe, they try to, Droplets, your Scythe, or even Chalice, Imperm, whatever, you're able to use IP Masquerena, especially if you wait to go to main phase, because a lot of times they're waiting for you to shotgun standby. If you go to main phase and you're able to do this, after they put something on board or play a card, you're able to, flip a Fog Blade, then be able to respond with IP Masquerena, sending your Scythe, going into a Unicorn, being able to out something on the board, and still being able to resolve your Scythe. So this is a strong card, and of course, it's just a great card being able to interrupt your opponent's boards. We've got our Downward Zeus. This came up a lot, especially against the Flu matchup, because you're able to play through Featherstorm and still be able to set up the Downward Zeus. Then we got our Mirage. This comes up not as often. It has been coming up, of course, just in general, because you do need the 1-card starter. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a necessary card in my opinion. You've got Gloomy. This card's actually really good as well, and it's actually very good against the Flunderies matchup, because if they Dimension Shifter you and you need to continue to extend, you're able to bring back their Dimension Shifter, and then you're able to go into Bardiche and still be able to set a Fog Blade, so you're able to at least have some kind of follow-up going into their turn without just passing and setting whatever spells and traps you drew. Of course, you do lose resources in doing so, but you're at least able to set something up, Bardiche on board, and hopefully be able to play the game. The 1 Break Sword, we cut it down to 1. That's our original cut for the second one was the Phoenix, and then we went with the Phoenix for the IP. Dagda, of course, our mainline setup. 1 Leviair, 1 DPE, 1 Verite. This is going to get banned hopefully soon. Link Spider, Access Code, and Unicorn, of course. I don't like Borrow Sword. I know Borrow Sword, you know, you don't have to really link climb for it, but I like the link climbing. I think that Access Code is just able to do more and feels a little bit easier to OTK with because of the fact that you don't have to have guys on board to put in rest mode and all that other stuff. But yeah, so that was the extra deck. Very self-explanatory. Then we'll go into the side deck because that changed a lot for me as well. I wanted to make changes, of course, to address my bad matchups. So we've got the Imperm, mainly for Flu. We want to be able to force them to have to use a lot of their cards in order to be able to extend their turns. So if we're just letting them normal summon and they're able to use their normal summons as they need to without being contested, it becomes difficult. We do have searchable monster effect negation, but I wanted something for when I go second. That way I have something at least to force an effect, and if they don't have the quick play spell, then I'm able to at least shut them down and stop them from getting M-Pen on the board. This also is obviously a good hand trap, especially against things like Sword Soul and anything else. So, we want to be able to have something to slow our opponents down when we go second. Then we've got the Anti-Spell Fragrance for going first. This actually comes in obviously a lot in a lot of matchups. A lot of these decks right now are playing heavy spells aside from Eldritch-based decks. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is necessary. Also, Sky Striker is a very good control deck that we want to see this against because we don't want to get blown out. Red Reboot for the back row decks. Harpy's Feather Duster. Now, with Red Reboot, I actually considered it, especially in certain matchups where my opponent is playing evenly. I actually considered citing this in even just for the evenly alone because obviously evenly is a blowout card in the event that Lancia isn't a good card against the actual deck itself. For example, if we're playing against Prank Kids and they side in evenly, Lancia is not going to do much against Prank Kids, but the evenly match is going to be able to get stopped by Red Reboot, and they obviously don't play any other traps, so they're not going to be able to benefit from it too much, but I'd rather pay half my life to keep my board than to lose it to an evenly. We play 2 evenly matches, obviously, for going second. The 2 other Lancia, because as I said, Lancia is pretty insane in the format right now, so we want to be able to slow our opponents down and stop them for the entire turn. And the last lineup that I went with for hand traps was the Gamma. Wasn't a fan, honestly. It does come up, of course, because when you're trying to do your Brave package, you don't have any monsters on board. So if they try to Ash Blossom your your Water Enchantress, then you're able to stop them and get a free Verite if you need to. I mean, obviously you can link these away, but otherwise it's not too bad. I want to also have something for going second, just so that I can slow my opponent down depending on the deck. Because there are some decks, especially like the Mirror, where they are setting up Scythe Lock that can be a bit annoying to deal with. And this obviously going into your turn, if they try to Scythe Lock you, you can Gamma it or you can Imperm it. So we have options, obviously, depending on what our opponent has. But 9 times out of 10, obviously, this is the better way for the Scythe Lock because you can just do the Imperm on the Scythe, and if they have Griffin, you Gamma the Griffin, and then you obviously have a starter with your Griffin Gamma and Driver. So, but yeah, that was the side deck. But as I said, my matchups were Florendry, Florendries, I don't know how to pronounce it, Sword Soul, Mech Knights, and Sky Striker. And, as I said, I had an issue with Sky Striker before. I played it very differently. I was able to use droplets to take my Bardiche off the board under Mystic Mime and play through Mystic Mime. But one interaction that I wanted to show that actually came up in testing was the Shade. Obviously nothing too big brain, but the Shade and the Draco back. Being able to search both of these actually gives you an easy out to anything on the board because, of course, you're able to normal summon just about any Phantom Knight other than Torn Scales. Search Shade. This obviously gets searched off of Fate. You're able to equip this on Shade and bounce something because it's for a non-effect monster for the bounce. And that came up actually against my Sword Soul matchup. He summoned the big guy that whenever you banish, it banishes a card in the field. I was able to get to my Shade Brigandine, obviously with nothing on board, and then I was able to play it, use the Draco back, and then go into Cherubini in full combo. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't have the right or any way of being able to get to my Water Enchantress because the Cherubini needed to be used for a Phantom Knight in order to continue my combo because I was going to go for game that turn. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought that was actually pretty neat considering both of these are searchable, so you don't have to necessarily just go for the token on the right. You're able to actually use it on your Shade Brigandine. Of course, you lose the Draco back after you use it for extension, but yeah, it's a nice little combo. But yeah, otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed the take on the deck. Of course, this is my formula of the deck, and I wanted to showcase changes that I make as I continue to play. I'm trying to play a little bit more competitively and get into more tournaments because I've been playing this deck for a very long time, since February, and I've been making a lot of changes as the metas go along, and right now this is a very strong deck. I think it's actually one of the best decks in the format. You know, it definitely takes a really good pilot to play it, because of course there are a lot of nuances that happen and a lot of ways to be able to play through hand traps and extend. And this deck is, in my opinion, one of the best extending decks in the format, because a lot of decks, if you hit them a certain way, they're not able to play through things like most decks are. So, but yeah, this is my take on the deck. You guys go ahead and comment below any changes, any suggestions, anything you guys want to know. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe.